Hello, it's Kieran here from UNE Discovery, bringing you the Soil Your Undies educational checkpoint number 1. So in our educational checkpoint series, we're going to be taking a closer look at different aspects of the Soil Your Undies challenge. Now, Soil Your Undies is obviously a soil health experiment, but today we're not looking at the soil so much as what we buried, those undies, specifically cotton undies. So why is the cotton important? Well, cotton is a natural fibre, which means it is grown on a plant. And here's a picture of one if you don't believe me. So cotton grows on a plant like this. It's the white stuff that the seeds are held in after the cotton flower has been pollinated and died. In nature, those little fluffs of cotton would get blown away and those seeds would get transported to a new place so it could grow a new cotton plant. But when we farm it, we harvest all of that cotton before it can get blown away, and then it goes through a process called ginning. And ginning is where you take all the seeds and any of the leaves and sticks and bits that got caught up in the cotton when it was harvested, and you get a nice pure cotton product at the end. All those fibres get woven into threads, which then get woven into material. And that's where we can make our undies from. So when you're wearing nice cotton undies, you're really wearing plants. Now, all of that cotton is made of something called cellulose. And cellulose is essentially a plant fibre which is made up of sugar. So it's lots of little bits of sugar joined together into a big chain that makes these cotton fibres. So when we bury that cellulose in the ground, all of the microbes, the beetles, the worms, everything else living in the soil sees that as food. And so it breaks down that cellulose and eats it, converts it into food, energy to keep them going. So the healthier your soil is, and the more things that are living in your soil, will break down your undies faster because there's more things to eat it. So that's how the Soil Your Undies challenge works, really, and that's why we use cotton undies. But there's other materials besides cotton, and that's what we're really going to try and think about today. What would happen if we used a polyester cotton blend of undies? So polyester is a synthetic fibre, which means it's not grown on a plant or from an animal, like wool, for example. It's made in a factory. And polyester is effectively plastic that's drawn out into very thin little strings, which gets made into fibres, that gets made into threads, into material, into clothing. So if we buried undies that were made up half of cotton, half of polyester, all the cotton would get eaten away, just like in our undies. But all that polyester, that's not very good microbe food. So that's going to stick around for a lot longer. And what you'll probably get is undies that are a little bit thinner, see-through, but the polyester would still be there. So you'd still have something that looks a lot like undies when you dig it up after 8 weeks. And this is really what we want to think about today, is those synthetic fibres. Because they don't break down very fast in the environment at all. Something like the polyester can take up to 200 years to break down in the soil, sometimes as long as 400 years. And when a lot of our clothes are made out of polyester, that starts to become a real problem when we think about how much clothing we throw out every year. In Australia, last year, over 700,000 kilos of clothes were thrown out and ended up in landfill. Now, if all of those clothes were cotton, that's not going to be such a big problem. After a few months, all that cotton will break down, it'll feed the microbes in the soil, and it's not going to leave much of a trace in the environment. If all of those clothes were polyester though, that's a bit of a bigger problem. All of that polyester is going to sit around for hundreds of years, and every year we're going to keep adding more and more to it. When the polyester breaks down, it doesn't chemically decompose into a new product. It just breaks apart into tiny little pieces that are called microplastics. And microplastics are becoming increasingly big problem in the environment. They're winding up in a lot of different places, even in Antarctica, where there aren't any people. So what our exercise today is really about is having a look and having a think about what our clothes are made of and whether we can make some different choices around our clothing. So what we're going to ask you to do, if you're in lockdown, like me, this will actually be really easy for you. In fact, it's probably easier for you than the people in the classrooms because you've got all your clothes in your house with you. You can just go grab them. If you're in a classroom, bring in a few bits of clothing that you don't normally wear to school and we'll take a look as a class what they're all made of. So I'm going to grab some clothes of mine. There we go. And we'll see what they are all made of. So something like my sports top here. That one is made 100% of polyester. Now, synthetic fibres are pretty good in some circumstances because things like sports tops or swimwear, like I've got here, they don't hold on to water in the same way that a natural fibre would. So they actually dry off really, really quickly. So if you're out swimming in your board shorts and rashy vest, when you get out of the water, you'll dry off really, really quickly compared to if you're wearing something like cotton or wool. My denim jeans, those are 100% cotton. This t-shirt, the tag actually says ultra cotton. So you'd think that's pretty good, eh? But when you actually look at what it's made of, it's actually 50% polyester and 50% cotton. So that t-shirt of mine, yep, 50% synthetic, 50% natural. Something like socks are really interesting because they don't always have a tag on them to tell you what they're made of, but when you buy a new pair like this with the barcode on it, it'll say on there what they're made of. And these ones are 80% cotton, so 4 out of 5 parts of these socks are cotton, and then the rest is polyester and a little bit of elastic. Something like my big waterproof winter coat, that's 100% polyester too. So again, for the same reason as our swimwear, having a raincoat made out of a synthetic fibre actually makes that raincoat work better because it's going to be more water resistant. Even something like our masks that we have to wear a lot these days is something really important to think about, because a surgical mask like this that's disposable, that's actually made out of polyester as well. So that's effectively a plastic mask. And when these get thrown out, they can take 200 to 400 years to break down. Whereas something like my cotton discovery mask, if I were to bury this in the soil, it would break down just like our undies. It would be gone in a couple of months. But with this mask, I can reuse it as many times as I like, as long as I give it a wash. So which one of these masks is going to be better for the environment? Obviously, it's our Discovery mask, and I'm not just saying that because it's got my Discovery characters all over it. So what we'd like you to do is go through as a group, have a look at what your different clothes are made of, and maybe have a think about what's going to happen to those clothes when you're done with them. Maybe you're going to grow out of them, maybe they're just going to get too worn out to wear anymore. What are you going to do with those clothes once you don't need them anymore? So if it's a case of the clothes are still good, they just don't fit, well, maybe think about donating those to a second-hand shop so someone else can wear them. And that way they're not ending up in landfill. If they are no good to wear anymore, maybe think about some other uses that you could have for your old clothes. Now, the other thing you can do, like I've done, is go through and count up all the different natural fibres and synthetic fibres that your clothes are made of and see which one is the most common. So in my case, polyester won. Polyester was the most common fabric in my wardrobe. So I'm going to have a bit of a think about what clothing choices I'm going to make next time I buy new clothes, and I'm going to try and hold on to my clothes as long as I can and not buy new ones unnecessarily. Now, if you're in a primary school, a little tally like that is awesome. If you're in high school, we'd love to see you make some graphs or charts of your data and see maybe if you can break it up into different groups, maybe into shirts or tops and bottoms, and see if there's any patterns in what types of clothing are made from what material. Have a bit of fun with the data, break it down, and see if there's any patterns hiding in there. Now just remember, for the participation, to be eligible for the participation prize, we do need a photo submitted of this activity. So that can either be your data that you've collected, a picture of your tallies or charts. If you're in a classroom, we'd love to see everyone analysing their clothing. Okay, that's all from me for now. Next time, we'll be taking a look at soil pH with Imogen. So until then, I'll see you soon.